Some people find it revolting. Some go through pain to hide it. Some remove it forever. I say, accept it. Since I was 12, I've blindly followed the ritual of shaving my body hair, and I've never asked why.
Underarm hair first began to be shaved due to the advent of certain sleeveless designs, so fashion magazines promoted a hairless underarm. That caught on.
Must have been 7 or 8, and looking at the young woman sitting opposite me who had a beehive hairdo and makeup and all the trimmings, and I looked at her and I thought, well, if you died now, your life's complete because you've got everything I want.
There was a campaign to start women shaving their legs in the 1920s, but then in the 1930s dresses became longer again, so there was no longer a focus on women shaving their legs, and that didn't reassert itself until after the Second World War.
So maybe it is fashion. Skinny jeans looked horrible when they first came back, and now they're commonplace. So if all women had hairy underarms, then would that come back into fashion? Maybe it would.
It wasn't even a question, it wasn't even a decision. I just went, oh, okay, when your hair grows, you shave it off.
It's to do with fashion, to do with culture, it's a construct.
The pressures are overwhelming, but is it all the media's influence, or is it just easier to blend in?
It's social comparison. We look to each other to sort of know what to do with ourselves. Having the long blonde hair and growing it so that I would feel more beautiful, I feel there's a connection between that and shaving hair off to feel young and beautiful and soft and feminine. But I do also acknowledge that the roots of that are other people's expectations.
If I don't shave my legs, I think it looks a bit untidy. I suppose because it's still ingrained in me in a way to do it. That's how I feel pretty. That's how I feel good. And part of me is annoyed at myself for feeling that way, particularly if a man inferred that a woman was not feminine because she didn't shave under her arms or shave her legs. I'd be outraged. But I still stick to my regime, so I'm not sure what that means. Whether it be Chinese women binding their feet or the women who lengthen their necks with rings, there's something absurd in the way we feel we've got to conform to what the others are doing.
Someone who's in a cult will say it's their decision to be in a cult, but really they've just been brainwashed. But is that for me to say?
Everyone has their reasons, but why do we ignore the reality?
I needed to have a scene where I was in my underwear, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll go and have a wax. It was the most excruciating, fucked up thing to be waxed on the most sensitive part of my body and to have the hair ripped out. I found it quite traumatic. I went to my boyfriend's afterwards and I was crying. It took skin off as well. I'm definitely not of the school of thinking that hair removal means so much to me that I would go through pain for it. I would never do that again. Never, never, never.
To change a lifetime of conditioning can be difficult. So where do we begin?
On being born, I was awarded a bed of fresh flesh.
It's about why they come to the decision they do about how they deal with their bodies. That's the important thing.
Designed to be worn from my head to the meshy webbing of my toes. Designed to be naked sometimes, the shape providing an allowance for clothes.
Well, it's naturally there, and it highlights the difference between childhood and sexual maturity. So I would guess that I'm biologically designed to like it, and I do. It just looks right.
I think that there are a number of people who also find it attractive. I don't think it's a blanket thing where all people are revolted by it.
But ultimately designed to be hairy, so there would be no real need for those.
Anything where you're going against the general consensus is difficult. It's hard to challenge yourself, let alone having to challenge the tide of the rest of the community.
Adorned so, I grew, proceeding to grow from squishy babe to semi-calloused youth to crepey crow.
Will the trends change? Probably. like skinny jeans.
I feel like my world was quite narrow. So I admire someone who can then go, well, I don't care what, the models do or what the standard of beauty is in our culture. This is how I was born, and this is what's happened to me, and this is how I'm going to stay. I've got body hair, and it stays.
I haven't removed my body hair for 2 years now. I've considered my choice, and I accept it.
And in the interim, I weeded every second helpful hair from where it was needed, here, there and underwear, so others would be misleaded into thinking my most sacred temple, hirsute, lined and dimpled, my most precious place, legs, arms, inner thighs, chest, face, my most holy house, was no different to the vessel of a baby mouse.